reproductive rights are under assault in the United States. And what's worse, the rationale put forth by the Supreme Court to justify rolling back nearly 50 years of precedent, that there's no implicit right to privacy in the Constitution, lays the groundwork for a full court press on a host of other settled cases. Deep Listens is taking action, and we need your help. Of course, we want you to learn about the elected officials in your area and vote in every single election, but we'd like you to consider contributing to the national network of abortion funds as well. The NNAB is a clearinghouse of regional abortion and reproductive health organizations across the United States. Their goal is to remove financial and logistical barriers to abortion access, centering on those looking for assistance and organizing at the intersection of racial, economic, and reproductive justice. You can contribute to the NNAB directly at abortionfunds.org/donate. You can also use their site to locate an abortion fund in your area so you can keep your money local and aid your neighbors. Thank you, and now back to your regularly scheduled podcast. Hello, good people. Welcome to Off the Deep End, the Deep Listens podcast where we explore role-playing video games in depth. That's where the name came from. My name is Jeff Rude, the host, and the stone runes cast onto a piece of cloth of this operation. Joining me, as always, we have the WieldDecide.com of this operation, Braden Arbitrary Water Redacted. Hello, Braden.
Hi, I have moved from randomization to towers.
I forgot you'd moved to towers, forgive me. The Towers of Hanoi just doesn't work as well.
Democracy is in, randomization is out.
Also joining me, the random.org/integers of this operation, it is Chris, Zombie Pie Redacted. Hello, Chris.
I'm trying to maintain a positive outlook while I watch my country descend into anarchy and fascism.
Boy, howdy. And not only are the three of these chuckleheads just enumerated, represented, we have a special guest who volunteered for this because I had poor life choice, I guess. So joining us, the big kahuna, the import random line break random.random bracket control run, it's Gino, that Pinguino Grieco. Hello, Gino.
Hello.
What's your favorite Python library, Gino?
I don't use Python very much, so I don't actually have a favorite Python library. I was going to say, though, if you were going to go with random integers, I prefer floats.
That is when so random does call floating point numbers.
Hell yeah.
That's its sort of baseline thing, so you'd have to want to convert that into integers in Python. But its default favors give you a floating point number. And that's literally about as far as the Python as I can remember in my head. Let me tell you, I'm trying to learn SQL right now. And
oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I could teach you SQL.
Yeah, there's lots of books and shit that can. You're going to overcharge me, though.
I'm a man.
Yes, you are.
I am a man.
I'm glad that we started this podcast really broad.
Yeah.
Speaking to all of our people who know the differences between integers and floats.
It's,
what up,
I
gang?
remember the difference, but...
It's in the spirit of the creator of this game we're covering, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Akitoshi Kawazu definitely thinks the difference between integers and floats are riveting.
Yeah, and more to the point, doesn't care if you know anything about those things. He'll just tell you about them. So this is an episode, this has been a Patreon incentive for Deep Listens broadly, and Off the Deep End specifically. For a moment, we are up to 20 subscribed patrons, which is really, really wonderful. And I'd like to say, first of all, thanks to everyone. And I guess before we get too deep into the show, let's they say it's always darkest just before it goes pitch black, you know? But let's enjoy the little light we have left and talk a little bit about the weekend's streaming event that happened, I guess.
Definitely. So for those who did not listen to the most recent Deep Listens, for those who are Off the Deep End exclusives, we had a
First
fundraiser.
Of all, sorry.
Yeah. First of all, sorry. Second of all, we had a fundraiser. We helped out on GiantBomb.com with another Giant Bomb community endurance run. This time we were raising money for the National Network of Abortion Funds, and we raised over $3,000 for sponsoring folks to, go travel and get the health care they need. because stuff, as ZP alluded to at the beginning of the show, is fucked. I've talked about a little bit of what I did during the show, during our regularly scheduled Deep Listens discussion of this. Braden and ZP, what did y'all do for the fundraiser?
Well, Gino, I accidentally streamed one more day than I was thinking of because I was doing a test stream, and then you're like, hey, Braden's online, just put him on the Giant Bomb chat. And that's how I played 24 the game for 3 hours.
You're
and
welcome.
The next day, I played a bunch of 3DO games and Daymare 1998, which is a bad Resident Evil clone made by people who were working on a Resident Evil fan game and then got cease and desisted. So they filed off the serial numbers and made what might be one of the worst games I have played this year and the second worst game I've played for a charity marathon this year.
What's the worst charity marathon game you've ever played?
From Forever.
Huh? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that checks out. And ZP, what did you do?
We started the first episode of a new series wherein I will be ranking every single side quest in Final Fantasy IX, which is also your tricky way of forcing me to replay Final Fantasy IX. But I call my series Everything in the Kitchen Sink, where everything that is side content in Final Fantasy IX must be legitimately attempted at least once.
Yeah, we're doing all of it.
Once.
You'll do more than Gino has if you beat Ozma.
Oh, yes.
That's true.
Hold it over his head for the rest of his life. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's like maybe the second greatest Final Fantasy game I've ever played. Maybe third if you're actually pushing me.
Ozma lives at my pleasure. I can kill him whenever I so choose.
Bullshit. Every single time someone's tried to donate to make you play beat Ozma, you've always been like, I gotta raise another $200, and then you keep moving the goalpost.
Look, I just recognize the amount of extra time it would take, and that I'm really helping the viewers because they don't realize that it would be boring to watch me go to the dojo to train to kill Ozma. So
There's got to be a lot of money in that banana stand.
I'll kill him at some point. Don't you worry. That weird orb, that weird stress ball will die someday. So yeah, that's what we did, and I played some Fallout 3. We did an Exquisite Corpse run of that. I passed my save off to Giant Bomb moderator Rio Starwind, and then he passed that same save off to friend of the show, Yatsu, and then I got it back at the end. So Goody No Murders was having a fun time in Fallout 3.
Goody No Murders was doing murders.
I would like to preface, whenever Goody No Murders shot at something humanoid, she did scream, "This isn't self-defense." So is it a murder? And then I also played Bloodborne some. That game's good.
Oh?
Yeah, Bloodborne's good.
You're one of them now, huh?
Well, Bloodborne is better than
Bloodborne is the best one.
Yeah, it's significantly better. The story's less completely
fast.
It's told well.
It's
the game
spooky.
is fast. There's stuff going on. It's very visually interesting.
Let's not get bogged down in this, but straw poll, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, who you got? Across the room here.
I still haven't finished Elden Ring.
Okay.
I would
beat
finish
Bloodborne
Elden Ring.
like twice.
I've finished Elden Ring before this dog shit game.
And I would say Bloodborne because I played Elden Ring and I've enjoyed my 7 hours of Bloodborne more than I enjoyed my 40 hours of Elden Ring.
Yeah, what if Bloodborne was only like 25 to, let's say, 40 hours, depending on how much side stuff you did?
I mean, I listen to Axe of the Blood God occasionally. I heard Nadia Oxford claim that she played Elden Ring for 300 hours.
No, thank you.
And that, A, probably is on the high end, I'd guess, but B, is just very scary. And I think I'll play.
I recommend a video game instead.
I think Tunic is going to be the new game I play this year. That's
time to play Total War Warhammer. Mortal Empire's coming in August, baby. Choo choo, motherfuckers.
You see, but why would you play new Total War games when you could reinstall Medieval 2?
Because Medieval 2 doesn't have vampire pirates.
No, but on the other
vampirates?
hand, it has
Yes.
Norway.
It doesn't have vampirates or Germans.
Or Maya Aztec lizards.
Let me assure you, Medieval 2 has A, Aztecs, B, Germans, C, probably vampire. My favorite thing I ever did in Medieval 2 is I had a cardinal who was secretly female. That was like one of the two traits.
That's a common, yeah.
And
I actually got that cardinal to be promoted as the Pope.
Yep. All right. Well,
Spoilers.
I thought I had a nice story. So everything sucks. And speaking of that, let's get to it. On this episode of Off the Deep End, we will be discussing Unlimited SaGa. It was originally developed by Squaresoft, and it was published by Squaresoft for Sony's PlayStation 2. Perhaps you've heard of it. On December 19th, 2002, in Japan. It was subsequently released in the United States by Square Enix. This was like right as the name change went down. And in PAL territories by Atari SA, the artist formerly known as Infogrames, and in the Republic of Korea by EA. This was the first Square Enix game, basically the first Square game that got a full release in South Korea. And I'm sure they're sorry. If you would like to be a part of the pre-show discussions about Unlimited SaGa and literally any game that is not Unlimited SaGa, like just pick any of them. Just Chiller, Fabulous Wanda, just Ow My Balls, just anything. And any other fun goings-on in the Deep Listens family, you can check out patreon.com/deeplistens. That's patreon.com/deeplistens. Any dollar amount that you kick in will get you access to a Discord that we operate. It will also allow you to add an RPG to the slush pile, which we are going back to so quickly as soon as this is done. You can also send in questions to us via electronic mail. Those can go into inquiries@deep.lol, the novelty, vanity, top-level domain that I refuse to let lapse, because it's so good. It's so clever and witty and fun, and we all like, .lol. What a great TLD. So, I usually try to write notes and, bullet out, your middle school, have 5 paragraphs worth of stuff ready to go. And this one, I'm kind of at a loss. So, I alluded to this in the end of the Zelda 2 episode we recorded, but I wrote a pretty long review of this game. It's up on giantbomb.com if you search my government ass name on there, or for just one of the reviews on Unlimited SaGa on giantbomb.com. It will come up. It's long, so before replaying this, I just kind of went back and looked at what I wrote, and then touched this game for, spoilers, about an hour. And I was like, nope, it's all flooding back. Everything I said in this is true and accurate and correct. I feel like I could just recite that, but what I'd like to do... No
desire to paint your face green this time?
I did not do any face painting. I started playing as, I believe, Ventus, and got through a mansion and saw a couple cutscenes, and said, you know what? I get it. This is exactly as I remember it. So I guess a little bit of scaffolding. So this is a SaGa game. That is a lineage of games that stems back to the basically 1990, I think was when that first Final Fantasy Legend game came out in Japan. That'd be a good one to have written down. SaGa is the brainchild of the aforementioned Ashitoki Kawazu, a Square employee who's been with the company for a very long time. He was one of the principal developers behind Final Fantasy II, specifically the parts of Final Fantasy II that made people scratch their heads a lot. The aspects that made people puzzled by Final Fantasy II were not necessarily as ill-received in Japan as they eventually would be in America, such that this is the Hardcore Gaming 101 theory. They took his head, they put it in a jar, and said, look, you make a thing, it's a very strange thing, but there's a very specific market for it, so we want you to keep making stuff, obviously, but we're not going to let you do a Final Fantasy game, ever again. So, go live in this basement and just make a misery factory every once in a while, and see if those will be profitable. And that worked for quite a while. Those first 3 SaGa games got localized. They were Game Boy games. They came out in the United States as Final Fantasy Legend 1, 2, and 3. And people seem to really like them. In the last one, you fight God, who looks like a weird Amish man at the end of it. I don't know if it was necessarily the first role-playing game thing where you explicitly just kill, like, you know, the Tetragrammaton or whatever, but it might have been.
When did Megami Tensei come out?
Yeah, when did Megami Tensei start doing that?
I think Megami Tensei was 80s.
Yeah, it was like 87 or 88, that first one. But you're not necessarily killing, like, the... I mean, okay.
All right, I'm looking.
You're killing Yahweh in that game.
Well,
Are we going to get into another religious dogma?
Let's get into theocratic discussion.
I mean, that first game adheres or attempts to adhere so closely to that light novel that came out that it's literally not like capital G God that you are fighting. It's kind of just a slew of them. The second game takes place in a weird, like, apocalypse world that's loosely related to those books. It gets weird. This isn't a Shin Megami Tensei episode necessarily, but point being, you kill God in one of them, and everything that leads up to that is just kind of random generated fun. So they really start leading into what I guess you would generously call emergent gameplay sort of things. In the SaGa series.
Okay.
The party assembly in those games, it was like you can choose between like male and female human beings, elves and robots and mutants, and there are characters who only level up by eating other monsters in the world, and it's a lot of fiddly, odd, semi-random, and just dead-ass random things happening in these games, but they sold, and they got enough clout that they kind of spun off onto a second series called Romancing SaGa on the Super Famicom, and those were received, frankly, rapturously well in Japan. People who know will say, you know, like JRPGs, you know, it's kind of like, you know, Final Fantasy, and then you got your Dragon Quest, and then, like, Tales. Before Tales existed, you very easily could have slotted SaGa into that third slot, at least in Japan. And maybe in America, because those Final Fantasy Legend games did move units over here, if not crazy units. But they sold. Like, they sold well enough that they got fairly large budgets as they went on, and there are some really, really good-looking games.
And
maybe
continue
not a cup
to
of tea.
get new ones.
Yeah, well, so that's just it.
Kinda.
The Romancing SaGa series spurred, the two SaGa Frontier games on the PlayStation, and there was one of two of those have gotten remade over the years. And then there was
SaGa Scarlet Grace is the most recent one.
Yeah, SaGa Scarlet Grace came about a decade plus after this. This game, Unlimited SaGa, here's a thesis, is kind of an aberration in this series.
In that it's so good?
No, not at all. I think this is a case of someone... a Vince Russo-esque scenario, I guess, is how you would describe it. Someone who has got complete, unfiltered creative control and just decides to steer something way too far in one direction. That direction being, like, nonsense, randomness. We've got a bunch of quotes here that I've scribbled down about this game. The big block of these come from an article that was written by Jeremy Parrish in, like, the aughts, basically. It's a US Gamer article titled, "Has an RPG series ever been more self-indulgent than the SaGa series?" So,
Jeff,
sir?
gut reaction, what's your answer to that very same question?
No.
No. No, the answer is no.
Yeah, no.
I think other games that are self-indulgent do not...
Like Metal
They're
Gear
not as
Solid?
off-putting. They don't hate the person for trying to play it as much as the SaGa games do. Like, Unlimited SaGa is so indifferent to your joy or pleasure. And that's not how most, even self-indulgent games, usually have enough self-awareness to think, what if a human played this?
The quote I want to pull from here, from Jeremy's words here, Kawazu takes a different sort of pride in the opacity of his games, a tendency that reached its peak with 2004's bewildering Unlimited SaGa, which took Kawazu back to his board game roots while simultaneously incorporating all the undocumented features of the SaGa games. Reviews for Unlimited SaGa were almost universally negative, asterisks, either baffled or angry. I've been told Kawazu was perfectly well aware that Unlimited SaGa was almost completely inscrutable to anyone but himself, but he chose to exercise his political capital as one of the company's oldest employers to make it happen anyway. A quote from Kawazu around this time: "As far as Unlimited Saga is concerned, we said, let's tackle the basics of game design once again. We didn't try to emphasize the realistic details, but rather symbolize and cut out the parts we didn't need. We thought, let's dare to do a not express thing, and we calmly stuck to that route." End quote. So, we've not really talked about this game, and that's my fault.
You want me to cover what this game is? I feel like
Yeah, like with all that in mind, what is this game?
Yeah, so Unlimited Saga. Oh, go ahead, Braden.
Every time I have tried to explain this game to another human being, either on Discord or in person, it has required me to just use the most pained, torturous metaphors possible, because on its face, this game resembles a traditional menu-based JRPG. However, once that facade is stripped away, it's like, what if Franz Kafka made a video game?
Yeah.
It's like doing your taxes in Japanese.
But a video game. So I would describe this game as largely a tabletop role-playing game. So think about, a D&D campaign where you've got your minis and you've got a board and you've got a DM who's telling you what happens when you enter given rooms. But imagine that the person who made the game thought that the thing you liked the most about D&D was rolling dice. And that's what they thought the fun was in. It was in how many dice you could roll, how specific the dice could be, how many different heads the dice had. That's what they thought you liked, because that's what you do the most. You wouldn't be rolling so many dice.
Pathfinder, then.
Exactly.
Got him.
Take that, RPG rule set beef.
You are basically a little mini on a board for most of the most of the game takes place in dungeons. You are a minifig on a board. You jump to squares, basically, or hexes. It's different spots on the map, but functionally it's like a hex grid or something. Every time you jump into a room, there's a chance that room will have a treasure, a monster, a trap, some sort of environmental puzzle. And when you jump into those rooms, depending on what your character's abilities are, think again like your D&Ds. Like, does your character know how to swim? Can your character read? Do you have the ability to negotiate with monsters? Are you sneaking? A bunch of modifiers. Depending on what your characters have available to them, they can have different levels of interactions with the things that happen in the room. But also critical, all of those abilities I just said, swimming, negotiating with monsters, knowing what the dungeon layout is, are attributes your characters can or cannot have based on die rolls, basically. Your characters, when they level up, and they level up at the end of missions, they don't level up from fighting enemies. Fighting enemies is actively bad, and we'll go over why later. When you get the option to add an ability, also, you don't just add abilities. It's like a hex grid where you have at most 7 abilities at any time, and each ability can both buff your stats but also be a thing you do on the board. Your characters get to pick something, but it's entirely possible that you have no way to interact with given things in the game because you just didn't get – look, your character didn't learn how to climb rocks, or they didn't learn how to unlock treasure chests. So, entire swaths of the game could be locked off to you, and you don't know before you go into the dungeon, generally speaking, what is useful, what is advantageous. Does water familiar do anything? What does it do? Is it helpful? Game doesn't tell you shit. Yeah,
I'm gonna shoot my shot because I think that this is in the spirit of talking about what this game is mechanically. This is posed to the rest of you, all of you, Jeff, Gino, Braden. Is this game a mystery dungeon game?
Yes.
No.
Kinda.
It's a mystery dungeon game that hates you and hates everyone.
No.
But it's missing some of the core mechanics of a mystery dungeon
Mystery dungeon means something very specific.
Yeah. It's
it's not randomly generated, so yeah, probably not technically a mystery dungeon. But in terms of
I was thinking of some of those really crunchy, kind of rough on the edges, Shiren the Wanderer, Tornico's Great Adventure games when I was playing this game, because there's a malice to very early 90s era mystery dungeon games And I know this is where Gino's like, not Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, but like for the most part, Mystery Dungeons really took like
Toroneko no Daiboken
they took
Fushigi no
Rogue
Dungeon.
and made that their whole gimmick, but with like full-fledged RPG mechanics. And out of curiosity, I decided to play the recent re-release of Rogue, the video game.
Oh.
Just as like, is this, because I really struggled with the genre here. It's like, I kind of was thinking that this is like Rogue adjacent in a lot of ways, and I think it's appropriate to call it Rogue adjacent. But then I also was thinking about, well, like Akitoshi Kawazu touched a couple of those Chocobo games. I know he did the Life Simulator one for the Wonder Swan, and he's also the architect of the Crystal Chronicles franchise, which has a little bit of that kind of roguish, mystery dungeon-ish gameplay. And there are even aspects of that when, you know, he went on to be the assistant executive producer after someone burnt out to make Final Fantasy XII.
Yep.
So yes, I know we're going to talk about, especially, you know, maybe Braden and I, how the malice of this game is Akitoshi Kawazu liking Dungeons and Dragons, but specifically Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, because if he's following 5E's rule set, we would not have put up with some of this bullshit.
Oh,
but
this is crunchy.
This is crunchy. But yeah, I was just going to pose it to the rest of you. Is this a mystery dungeon? And if not, what is it missing, or what does it have that forces you to reconsider that label?
Okay, I'm gonna be fucking 100% pedantic here and say that mystery dungeon means a very specific thing, which Unlimited Saga is not. It is randomized dungeons. It is roguelike-ish, if not entirely a roguelike. It is turn-based. You move and the enemies move at the same time. You can pick up items and throw them. There is usually some sort of progression mechanic involving, like, at some point, if you need to bail out of the dungeon to make sure you've kept what you've had, that is a mystery dungeon.
And I guess what I would say is that while this game doesn't have all of that intact, like, you know, what we would see in Tornico or Shiren the Wanderer or even Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, it has versions of those mechanics, while obtuse and hidden and fiddly and just pushed to the wayside. Some of those mechanics do exist in this game. It's just the manner in which you interact with those mechanics is not a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got some mystery dungeon to it because of the navigating around. There's freaking durability on your items. They're throwing items at you all the time because while the dungeons are not completely randomly generated, the contents of the rooms are in a lot of cases. So you've still got some of that mystery dungeon experience. Also, your characters level up really randomly. Your party. We'll need to go over how this game starts, but a lot of the mechanics here feel mystery dungeon-y, but definitely leaning more into D&D. Like, your characters are acquiring verbs that you can use to act upon the world, and, you know, sometimes you've got churn butter, and you're like, well, what is this? How is this going to help me? And then you run into the butter mines or something, and it's like, oh, okay, here's the one level where churning butter would have been very powerful. It's a shame I abandoned that skill 5 levels ago because I never got to use it, and it didn't do anything. And boy, that's just the whole game, is like getting an ability you don't know how to use, because the UI and UX are terrible. Like, it doesn't tell you how to fix items. When you've got, like, items that need repairing because items have durability, it doesn't tell you how to fix them because there's no, like, single menu to use abilities. There are a bunch of abilities that I used and it gave no feedback. It just said does not do anything. Like, I was in a castle and I had an ability that was like layout architecture or something, and it said, well, it'll help you when you're in buildings. And I used architecture and it never fucking did anything. So I don't know what it does.
Well, that kind of leads, we're skipping into, but that kind of leads to, like, the core issue that I had with this game, which is right from the rip, like, let's say you're playing Ruby, and it's like, open a door that requires you to find a key. In, you know, a mystery dungeon, I would move to the key, the character would pick it up, maybe even I would have to select the menu item to pick up item, and then I would go to the door, click, use key on door, and then I'd be done. Here, there are so many extra steps and extra variables that I need to consider just to pick something up. I have to find someone that has the specific, like, use key or keysmith. Well, even the key in the first mission is, like, busted or rusty or something. So I have to have someone with, like, smithing or key making attached as an ability, and the game doesn't explain how to use those abilities. And then I need to move after polishing the key and giving the key to someone who has that, command. Then I need to move to the door and then fiddle fan through like 18 different menu systems.
Yes, and when you get to the room with the key, instead of your character simply picking up the key, you have to go into a submenu, navigate to the key, the picture of the key in your submenu, and then navigate to the action command so that you actually pick up the key. Everything you interact with in this game requires you to do this little dance. So I use this analogy. It's like a Scum Engine game masquerading as a JRPG a lot of the times.
Yeah.
You've got a pile of verbs, and you just try each of the verbs until one of them does a thing, or you realize, oh crap, my character didn't level up to have the right verb. Guess I can't scuttle over rocks.
I cannot swim.
Yes. So like that, and then there's the combat and there's the characters. Jeff, how many characters are there in this game that you can choose at the outset? Because it gives you a list of characters to pick from, each with wild and amazing stories.
Well, Gino, as demonstrated in the cutscene that opens this game, there are 7 primary characters in Unlimited SaGa that you can choose from. And they all are bright, bushy-tailed, smiling anime JoJo's, and they're all in this game, which makes them kind of inherently
and
unlikable.
one furry mascot character.
Yeah, six humans and then one weird little furry. So to pause on that little beat right there, this game opens, you launch it, and you get this cutscene, which is frankly all right looking.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cel-shaded, fully animated cutscene. I think that, Jeff, you actually put it best. Like, it's a goddamn shame that they use this beautiful art for, like, exactly 5 minutes in a normal playthrough of the game.
Yeah, it's the best looking thing in the whole game.
Yeah, I will say, I looked back at my review and I was dogging the sprite work in this game, which it's a lot of sprites. I'll reel that back ever so slightly. When you are Fightan, your character sprites that are out on the field are actually pretty detailed and nice. And as it turns out, if you're like, gosh, how did they get the sprites to look so good? It turns out there's a very explicit answer, and it's Adobe Illustrator, baby. The Wikipedia article for this game pulls out some very specific quotes from the development staff at the time. Rather than use presumably some sort of in-house utilities to build this by hand, they went hard into Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator products at this time in Square. And also worth noting that the cutscene at the opening of this game was made by the studio that would go on to do Advent Children and Kingsglaive. They're kind of Square's in-house movie-making chunk still to this day. And this was one of the first things they did, basically, as far as I can tell. I mean, I guess Final Fantasy X had some, like, animated stints in it or whatever, but post Square USA blowing up after Spirits Within, this was kind of the first thing that Square released after that, I guess, really. Like generally, because this was kind of the first Square Enix game. Oh yeah, the other fun thing before you also dive into this game. So you see this cutscene, and you get introduced to the music, which is also one of the only other, like, kind of dim high points of this game. It's not particularly memorable, but it's fine. But you get this top menu, which is just menu. It's
actually, real quick,
yes,
we have to mention that the music is done by the current person behind all of the Final Fantasy music. He's the sole composer of Final Fantasy 13.
And you can tell, because boy, are there a lot of strings in this.
But yes.
Replace this whole soundtrack with the better parts of the 13 soundtrack. Yeah, so the top menu of this game is basically game, options for game, Final Fantasy X-2 demo.
Hell yeah.
It's not even a demo,
it's a clip.
trailer.
Yeah, it's a trailer for it. In Europe, they bundled in the Eternal Calm. It's not a trailer. It's like literally a weird 10-minute
promotional thing they made for 10.2 that's bundled in with the 10 and 10.2 HD thing now pops an achievement when you watch it, by the way, which is really funny. It's like, thanks for watching this video. Yeah, a new game like that takes you to a set of 7 drawings of characters, and I forgot their names, so we're going to call them 1 through 7. But I can pull up those names because someone cares.
I have them.
Great.
First
Can you
character.
announce them like they're fighting game characters?
From the left, in a weird land of mystery, we have Ruby.
Jin
Ventus,
Kazama.
the man
Ventus.
who has a dark past and a very confusing storyline. Laura, who wants to just kind of like go on a big adventure thing.
Laura.
Yoshimitsu.
Mythe.
I don't.
Yep.
I don't
Is
like
that
that.
is that the chipmunk?
Yes.
Mythe.
Aramik, who's, the big guy. And then Judy. The fun fact with Judy, you can complete Judy's storyline in 4 hours. More on that
picked
when
the
we
wrong-
talk about it.
Yeah.
And then
Picked the wrong
finally
character.
Kurt, the big bar daddy.
Kurt? Yeah, so you pick the characters, they each have a different cutscene to start, and then they dump you in a dungeon, and then you're just kind of dungeon crawling for hours before, well, it depends from story to story, but for some people it's hours before you get more story about the characters. Very important to say, no one talks during the dungeons. Like, you're not getting any character development between your cast, and each of these characters can run into other characters. They will have different party members that come with them by default. There's basically no character building between them at all.
Yeah.
They are just pieces on the board for you
They're
to fight
little
with.
vignettes.
There's shoestring plot in this game, but the bulk of this game is... I made this comparison in this review thing that I wrote, but there's, as mentioned, a little bit of rogue DNA in here, maybe a little bit of mystery dungeon. There's a little bit of wizardry in here too. Just a tiny, just a little small smackful of it.
A dab.
Homeopathic wizardry.
Yes.
Yes.
A beautiful way to describe it. Because you've got an inn. Basically, these sort of wilds between spaces have got like sort of a town area that you go to, which is generally like 3 or 4 buildings, all of which are menu driven. It's not like you're navigating these spaces per se. You're navigating menus that indicate buildings and indicate people and spaces, etc. But these inns will have people who will sell you what seems to be kind of randomly generated stuff with randomly generated prices, and then a handful of like 3 or 4 people that will give you sort of vague descriptions of events in the world or the environment around you or things that might be of use. Generally, they're not, but there's like an attempt at flavor. It's, again, gets back to the sort of tabletop roots I think they were going for here, the sort of tabletop roots that underline a lot of early role-playing stuff like your wizardries.
Yeah. It's a lot of people saying, like, my family died in the fire.
And it's like,
Thanks,
wow.
guy. And then second person, I had to escape to the castle. Like, okay, there's 2. And then third person's like, have you spoken to name? And that's it. There's no more dialogue. You don't get to talk to them. Like, if you keep talking to them, you don't get anything else. Yeah. It's the thinnest veneer of flavor.
Well,
It is reading a classic Dungeons and Dragons module and then just not filling in any of the blanks yourself as the GM and just saying, there is an innkeeper here. He is shining his glass and looks at you with a surly gaze.
I think that what's kind of frustrating is like what this story leaves not just open-ended, but just like kind of unaddressed. Like, you don't even have a name to this fantasy world. I think all of the storylines have this notion of the 7 wonders, but you don't know kind of what that entails until much later. So I actually ended up playing 2 characters all the way through because I wanted to compare and contrast if there was any commonalities and if the different starting positions actually led to something significant. And it depends. But the weird thing is that so this game was supposed to have an eighth character called Ixander, a warrior king.
Huh.
And for whatever reason, Ixander was they were not able to put Ixander as a full character. So he is like one of the weird, like, recurring bits across all of the storylines. He will appear at some point, regardless of which character you pick. He's the most prominent in Ruby's storyline because he basically becomes a party member almost immediately. But he's apparently the crutch for the game, talking about, here is this warrior king who's going to conquer half the known world, and he's going to found a capital, and he's going to name it after himself. And, you're going to find about this ancient race of people, and there's a god called the Creator, and then there's a bad god called Chaos.
Damn.
Chaos.
And
Chaos.
the seven wonders
back
are gonna... The seven wonders are going to lead to the creation of a mega weapon that will either destroy the Creator or banish chaos. Some of this happened before the events of the story, but you got to do it again. And so they do this kind of like world-ending kind of backstory, and then all of a sudden it's like, Laura's pirate. Her husband died. She wants to know what happened to her husband. Oh, Judy, she's a witch in training. She wants to save her grandmother. And Aventus, he's just a courier. Someone killed his brother. You got to find out who that is. Like the most bland, disconnected stuff, and these characters haphazardly come back into the forefront of this kind of larger world. They don't like earn their place in that world.
No.
They just kind of waltz into it, which I guess is a tabletop trope, but I don't even like it in D&D, so let alone making it kind of the way that you're conveying this supposed story.
Yeah, Dragon Age Origins would blush at the, here are disparate starting points. Because, later games that have done something like this, where you're choosing between different origins, they have the origin as, a opening module, and then you get all of those funnel into the same decision point, so that then they can tell a coherent story from that point on. This game's like, nah, we're going to tell 7 different stories, but all of them are going to be incredibly low stakes with just hours of gameplay between moving on bits of it, and then we're going to funnel towards these 7 wonders after you've played the game for 10 hours, which is just it's bad. It's no fun to play. The combat.
What?
Well, and but even before you get to that combat, to be clear, there's towns which you spend it does not take very long to exhaust the events that happen in these little town hub areas, and they comprise, I would wager, probably about 10% of the actual game time you're going to have. The bulk of the time you're playing this game is not in combat, it's not in cutscenes, and it's not in towns. It's literally playing this board game sort of interface where, again, the objectives that you have, such that you're really given anything to do, are basically go to a place or find a thing or set of things, right? How that plays out is quite literally you're on a set of spaces and there's a real fog of war going on around them, basically. So to determine where you need to go, you're using the left stick and sort of moving it in one of 8 directions, basically. And a couple of those directions will kind of indicate a little sort of sound and visual cue. And if you hold the left stick in that direction long enough, about a second, I want to be real clear, the piece will then move in that direction, if it can move in that direction. That is how you move in this game, is you have to painstakingly poke around with the left stick and then hold it long enough for the character to finally move into a space, at which point a random event may trigger, which generally to resolve... Or not. That's just it. A lot of this game is just kind of nothing happening and you holding the left stick and waiting, a word that when you start using, when you're talking about a video game, someone needs to underline it and take someone and pick them up and pin them to a wall and say, so they're going to wait, huh? You're going to make a player wait. Okay. So, get a new fucking job, empty your desk.
I think a lot about our dear co-host and friend Emerin Palladino when she explained the concept of game juice to us last year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is the driest motherfucking video game imaginable. It is no game juice. It is all game flesh. It is a dry, crispy, burnt steak of video games.
This game turkey was in the oven for 5 hours.
Oh, God. It's unbearable. And
it's crumbling.
All of these random encounters, like I said, to open a chest, what needs to be done is open a menu, select an option, toggle from that option to the space that you're on, and then move from that space to the chest, which is on a separate menu, then confirm that you want to use the verb on the item, again, scum, really pertinent thing to point out. This is just a chance to open the chest. This is an opportunity, which introduces you to the wheel. And we're going to talk about wheels here in a little bit. Most of these chests are trapped and contain literally nothing. They just hinder you, which leads you to just ignoring them most of the time.
Well, Jeff, have you considered what happens if you have a fortune teller so that you can do a die roll to see if you can read the fortune of what's in the chest, and then maybe you still you'll know it's in the chest, but maybe you don't have someone who can disarm traps or open treasure chests, so you can know that there's a sweet item in there, but you might not have. Your characters just can't figure out a way to open the chest.
Like, it's back to White Book D&D, right? Like, rogues were kind of the original skill monkey. For those of you who play, like, current tabletop stuff, like, the entire skill section of that character sheet was literally just what rogues had. Like, that is all they did, basically. So, like, to check if a door was locked, generally it was just roll a d6, and if it's 2 or 1, you can unlock it. Otherwise, nothing happens, right? A good DM would be like, no, there's a negative outcome if it gets to those other 2, right? But the space for either nothing happening or things happen, but they're all negative in this game is vast. Like,
yes,
playing actual AD&D would be less frustrating.
But yes,
sure.
to really hammer this point home, probably 50% of your time in this game is literally just wandering around these boards with the left stick. And the game just says, like, there's a chest, and you go, okay, that's great. I'm just going to move to this next space, and poking around blindly until you get to the next PowerPoint presentation where 2 characters sort of, their sprites look at each other briefly. And this is peppered with combat, which we should now address.
Okay, yeah, so combat, I said earlier that this game is like D&D if someone thought that the die rolls were the fun part. So instead of dice, we've got wheels.
It's got wheels.
They're called reels, thank you very much, in the Square Enix instruction book for this game. They're called reels, and it's referred to as the reel system.
It's real boring.
Oh, shit!
But
So the reels, there are different reels depending on what you're trying to do. If you're in combat, you pick from a menu of different attacks you can do, and once you pick your attack, a reel will spin. That reel will have weak versions of the attack and then upgraded versions of the attack that you can unlock randomly through combat. You just want to basically time your reel hits so that you pick one of the better, stronger versions of the attack. So say, for example, you pick throw. The lowest level move will be throw. The second level throw is Kawazu throw. Yes, the second level throw is named after the developer of the game.
It's really good.
The third one is like Death Drop or something, and then the level 4 one is like even better. And whatever move you do, it's the same base animation, and then it gets fancier and fancier the better the move is. But ultimately, it's going to be a throw of some kind. It just determines how much damage you're going to do. And you have 2 options in combat when you pick a command. You can either press X if you're on a PlayStation controller to stop the reel. Or you can press, I think it's circle or square, which is hold.
Yeah, circle leads to the combo system.
Yeah, so if you hit hold, your first character's reel will continue spinning, and then a second character will now be layered on top. So you've got 2 reels spinning. And you can have up to 5 reels spinning at once, and then your characters will all chain together, and you get a damage modifier, a damage bonus for chaining, for comboing. The downside of this is that if you hit hold, your enemy has an attack between your characters, they will just get an attack before you get to do your damage. So if you were going to attack and then they were going to attack, they are guaranteed to get a move off, even if your move would have killed them. So there's a little bit of risk.
And that move by the enemy is more powerful if you're trying to do combos.
And they can also combo multiple times. So if you hit hold and there are 3 enemy attacks after your attack, they're going to get a 3-hit combo on you. You're going to get 1 hit. So there's risk-reward. But also, very important to say, the game does not tell you what the turn order is. No. You know what order you inputted your attacks, but you don't know how the speed resolved because, I mean, there might be a speed stat, but boy, oh boy, nothing is shown to you. So I don't know. Did any of you mess around with the combo system at all?
I did. It's very obtuse. It led to certain cool, flashy attacks. You also forgot the flashes of inspiration or sparks system, which randomly from time to time sparks will come from your character, and then you'll get a high-powered spectacular attack, and that's when you have like a high-powered attack learned.
Yeah, that's how you unlock the better attacks.
Yeah. The other thing about the combat system, you can't run away from a battle. You're just stuck.
Yep.
So when, let's say you open up a chest and, oh God, the chest is actually a monster. If you do that before you rest and like you're just low health when you go into that battle, you're just boned. You're just boned. The battles cannot be run away from. You have to either defeat the enemy or just get a game over.
Can we talk about how...
Hey, Braden, how does health work?
Yeah, can we talk about how health works?
Yes,
so
that was my next point.
It's one of those things where HP is just a buffer.
Yeah.
HP is just a shield for your real health, your LP.
It's the overshield, like it's Halo.
Or,
yes, like
what,
Halo.
Edge of Eternity, what was that game called? The game where you got the guns, it's Tri-Ace.
Unlimited Undiscovery?
No.
No, Edge of Eternity, you mean...
Oh, piss.
Eternal Sonata.
No.
Damn it.
It's Tri-Crescendo.
Valkyrie Profile.
Oh, this is gonna kill me.
Oh, shit, the one with guns.
Yeah.
Fucking...
PS3 game.
Tales of Symphonia.
No.
No.
Jeff just searched PS3 Tri-Ace guns, because this is just gonna bug me. Resonance of Fate.
I have this
Resonance
in my
of
fucking
Fate.
Steam
Resonance of
library.
Fate.
Resonance
Yeah,
of Fate.
okay.
There it is. Got remastered.
Okay.
I really want to play.
Don't edit that.
Yeah, no,
I need that
all of
entire
that
there.
stand-in. That's real good shit right there. Yeah, you have scratch damage, basically, is what your HP is. That's what they called it in that game. Yeah, HP is scratch damage for LP, which is not scratch damage. That's you. Them's your life points. They're not called life points. I'm sure they have some really clever name.
Liminal oops.
There you go. Yeah, HP, you can spend, and you will spend, probably, a lot of this game walking around with effectively 0 HP, but that's fine, because Kawazu designed it. It's alright. It's not intuitive. It's okay. It'll make sense. You just gotta make sure that LP doesn't get down to 0, because then your game's over. And so it's a good thing there's a lot of ways to restore LP, and when I say a lot of ways, I mean none. It's just, you lose that, you die. It's great. Did I mention that some of these chests that are trapped in the world, they'll just take your LP as well as your HP, so you can just get killed just walking around? It's great.
My favorite part is when your character's HP goes to 0, and then you get hit, and you don't take LP damage at all, and how your attacks cost LP to use, so you're HP to use, so you're constantly like making yourself more damaged by trying to kill the enemy. But in combat, there are very few ways to restore. Well, you can restore HP by having characters not attack. They basically jump off screen and are protected from damage, and will restore HP. But fuck if I know when I was going to take LP damage. I had full HP sometimes and then took LP damage. I sometimes had no HP and took no LP damage despite taking a ton of HP damage. I don't know how any of the math ever works.
It's like there's some sort of piercing modifier or something, or like ignore armor flag on attacks, but it seems like that happens randomly too. It seems like, I mean, the theme of
we just need to read that like very long game facts FAQ by, God bless them, some person who actually has broken down every single mechanic in this game and explained it in a way we can understand. I looked at that fact and I saw there were like fucking weight classes for different characters, and I said, fuck you, and then I closed it.
It's a lot. One of my favorite random elements in this that really underscores, I guess, the fun randomness is, like I said, yeah, you can chain 5 characters in a 5-character combo, and they could all have the dice aligned just so that they get all their attacks off before the enemy even gets to hit them. And the animations will play out, and it looks like you really went to town on them and really whooped their butt real good. And then it will just say miss at the end. Like, you'll literally see the attacks happen, and then it'll just be like, it didn't happen. Sorry. And then just kill you. It actually just makes you feel sort of crazy after a while how little your input matters in this game.
Yeah, I mean, how many times? There were so many times where I felt like I was doing great in combat, and then I would open a chest or fall down a pit, and when your dice are rolling for those encounters, because there are reels for any action you take on the main menu or on the main map screen, basically. Mm-hmm. If you have success, failure, and critical failure, it's important to note there are two types of failure and one type of success,
yes.
which I think is a summation of this game in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And if you get critical failure on a trap, you're probably taking LP damage. If you get regular failure, you're probably taking a bunch of HP damage. If you want to heal up, you can actually rest on a screen, and that will allow your characters to heal their HP a little bit, but that allows the game to re-roll to see if monsters will show up. Or sometimes a trap that didn't trigger when you first entered the room will just trigger because you stayed in the room too long. So there's just constant little chip damagey ways that just navigating the map can put your characters into fatal ranges of LP, and they can just get knocked out then in combat by an unlucky dice roll. It's incredible stuff.
It is like staring into an unknowable void, because on paper I can kind of see what he's going for, in as much as it's like, all right, we're going to strip all of these JRPG ideas and go back to the basic fundamentals of dungeon crawling and numbers and, very Gygaxian approaches to exploring a space and obtaining loot. But somewhere along the way, that idea was also just it's we're not going to explain shit, and
not going to even bother. There are so many menus that I went into them, tried to read them, and they made no sense.
This game is a like the Elder Ones that Kawazu worships. This game has a cold indifference to the player. It does not care if you are having fun or not. It does not care if you live or die. It does not care if you understand the mechanics or not. It sleeps underneath the waves.
The part of the game that for me was just the clearest sign of this was the only person this makes sense to is the person who made it. Kawazu was the whole magical tablets and learning.
Hell yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. Tell me, how does magic work, ZP?
So first off, only characters with magical tablets can learn what are known, in quotations, arts. So it's not even magic, it's arts.
So it's a Tales game.
Characters have a magic tablet. They need to use their arts abilities during a battle, and then that will benefit the art comprehension of that art. And so there's there's a comprehension screen that will appear at the battle's completion. And you can have up to 3 magical tablets, and they each have their own thing there. You gain points that are completely separate from the rest of the leveling of your characters, and you can add these points to the selected art's gauge. And when the gauge reaches 100%, then the character will achieve full comprehension and receive the art in totality.
And it's worth saying that magical tablets, they are items you find in dungeons and get sometimes from bosses. And then at the end
Some of them are random, though.
Yep, some of them are random. And then at the end of a level, you will get the ability to assign an ability, and your options are some abilities that randomly got given to you, like swimming, and then you'll also have the tablet. So equipping a tablet on a character wipes away a different level up that you could have had. Yep. And you need to have a magical familiar to gain the points to unlock the abilities that are on that tablet. So you need to have already rolled a magical familiar to then accrue points to unlock things on this tablet you have. There were multiple abilities that I unlocked that made no damn sense to me, because I had one that was ability fusion, and I unlocked that ability, and then I didn't know how to use it. I couldn't use it to do anything because the game doesn't tell you what it does.
What's even worse is that there are specific characters out of the 7 that start with magical tablets, and they are not equipped at all.
You have to equip them at the beginning of the dungeon.
You have to equip them at the beginning of the battle, and you have to make that path, almost as if you're a programmer. You have to create a path between your familiar and the magical tablet that the game starts you with. The only reason why I felt comfortable kind of experimenting with tablets is because I picked a magical character from the start. And it's like, why is this character just whacking people with a wooden staff and doing shit damage? Oh, wait, they're supposed to be casting spells. And then I had to, like, read how to do this. So, yeah, like, it's a separate leveling system removed from just getting better at hitting things. And magic kind of doesn't even fully operate on the real system, which is weird. And then when you're mastering the elements, so it basically breaks down to fire, earth, metal, water, wood. And each of those, I think there are other arts and stuff, but each of them has like 3 abilities. For example, fire had fire arrows, a power surge ability, and like detect aura. And then even there, we have to talk about how there are a bunch of weird status effects. There are status effects that each art provides. So there are artifacts, whether it's damage, detection, recovery, aid, magic walls, repel, and invisibility. And those effects are not always used in battles. Sometimes it'll be like, hey, in order to progress through this dungeon, you need to be able to detect a magical wall. Sure hope you took the time to equip a magical tablet that has the magic walls ability. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed.
Help. Why? Why any of it? Why?
So,
why?
Not only that, let's talk about the skill system. So
No, let's not.
Skills, there's resilient skills,
No,
there's
we don't.
non-combative skills.
We don't need to talk about it. It doesn't matter.
Skills.
None of it matters.
My bit, I played this game a lot more whenever I played this, I guess 3 or 4 years ago. To quote directly from this thing, all 5 of my attempts to play through even one of the 7 story arcs in this game ended with me slowly bleeding out all of my LP, stuck on dungeon boards with no readily apparent means of healing between cities. You just kind of died in a hole alone, moving the left stick back and forth, hoping nothing bad happens to you. And the game's like, bad stuff's gonna happen to you, buddy. So I guess going back 15 minutes in time, Gino, you brought up the kind of like varieties of failure on these reels that can happen. That's an idea that I actually like a lot in my tabletop system of choice, the like Powered by the Apocalypse stuff. I like sort of a grade of failure or success instead of having it be a binary thing. Like the way that system generally works is you're rolling 2d6s. Anything below a 7 is something bad's going to happen. And then there's sort of a liminal partial success. And then anything above a 10 is like an outright success. And there's modifiers that could add to that make it not just completely rolling 2d6s. But the thing about that system that makes it really work, and the way tabletop games work, I guess more broadly, is it is a collaborative storytelling exercise. Generally speaking, unless you're like a very specific kind of spiteful Gygaxian bad person, I'll just say that, you're not necessarily playing or DMing a game with the goal of just like making people miserable and like smashing their toys in front of them. It's a storytelling exercise. It should have like narrative meaning what you're doing, basically. Like if you're just like, I don't know, like the world blew up, like that's no fun. Things should have some weight.
That's weird, because when I was near some people who were doing D&D, there was a person at the store I went to who all of the young kids had to be with him when he was DMing, because almost every treasure chest they tried to open would be full of acid.
It's like, it's just kind of...
That's this game.
Yeah. There's no space to like collaboratively tell a story in this system. Like an entire, like the dice roll is not necessarily the problem. I think it's an ill fit.
No.
Like what they've tried to do here is not even an impossible thing. Because I guess like to shoot an arrow like straight off into like the far distance here, this kind of got attempted again, I guess a while ago now, with Crimson Shroud on the 3DS. A game which I think has some things in common with this. They're not one-to-one by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a video game attempt to tell something like a really stripped-down tabletop-esque game experience thing that's like fairly, let's say, economically made, small in scope, but mostly lands. It's not like knock your socks off, like incredible best thing you've ever played, but it's pretty good, right? It should be noted that's a Yasumi Matsuno joint, too. It's one of, I guess, the more recent things he's done.
Crimson Shroud is cool, though.
Yeah, Crimson Shroud is very cool. This game feels very uncool and ungood. The sort of entirely dependent on, as Braden alluded to, eldritch mechanisms just feel just sort of like random shitty malice most of the time. And almost everything you do feels like it has 0 point.
Like interactive storytelling, the whole point is that the die rolls are happening in service of a story, right? It's putting some dynamism into the story you're telling because there are outcomes you as the player do not control.
Yes.
In this, there is no story. The characters barely have motivations. We barely hear from them. The monsters are generic and shared across all locations. The locations themselves rarely have any character or charm to them. So there's not enough meat on the bones here to make a dynamic story, to fill in the blanks. And that's really the crime here, is that they had a bad goal. They wanted to make all of these systems, but didn't have a compelling reason to use any of them because it's an RPG at the end of the day, right? Like, you're not here for screwing up a die roll to open a chest to get your 7th bone knife. And that's what the game is, all rolling dice for dodging traps and opening treasure chests, and very little compelling reason to do it. Because, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but if your durability on an item goes away, you can't use that item anymore. Your weapon just stops functioning in the dungeon. So I multiple times had weapons that like got really low on durability. Like I had a great weapon that I liked. It lowered in durability because I used it to kill enemies. And then once it was low on durability, I would use like the repair ability, which again uses the reels. If you hit too many bad reels, you break your own item. If you don't use the reels, your item will run out of durability and it will become unusable until you go back to a town and recraft it. Or you just keep getting items to like replace that item, but you don't have like at the point when you have 5 bone knives, you don't have any attachment to any of them. Nothing matters anymore. Yeah. It's all fungible at that point. And that's what happens all the time in this game.
It's just such a frustrating thing. Also, playing this for like 24 hours straight was like a very bad idea when I did it. Yeah. But like even I think chunking this out doesn't help, and it gets you to some real like weird territory because
just existential questions.
I mean, what is a video game in some sense?
What is that? What am I here for?
Video game is like a really big container, I guess, in like programming. Like I think there should be like lots of kinds of video games for lots of kinds of people, and I know people who like this game specifically and have tried to like upsell me on it, and they mean well. They're not pulling my leg or trying to be funny. So like this has fans. There are 500 kilobyte GameFAQs entries, several of them about this game, like people trying to piece this out, and like they find this fun. But like I don't even think this is much, like this barely passes muster for what I think like a video game can be. It's barely interactive, right? Like it's just kind of a series of random surprising things that happen, but the surprise is just like, oops, it's all staples. Like it's just a bummer. Like I spent hours with this game and it felt like nothing I did actually had any influence on the outcomes. Playing this game kind of is just doing Candyland in a way.
Yeah.
And like
this game is a reaction to the pointlessness of the universe.
Yes.
Like, is Candyland actually a game? Is I think kind of a question.
Yes.
Because like it's
yes, but it's for children. Like this game, I had a knife break, and then I equipped a different kind of knife because my knife broke. And then my character had to relearn the knife abilities they had from their first knife because they didn't have a relationship with the new knife. So my character immediately became much worse despite being a knife specialist. That's the sort of stuff that happens in this game all the time. The more you play it, the more you see it. I was not mad at this game 2 hours in. I was like, this game, Jeff's being a big old baby. This is fine. This game's fine. It's bad. It's got bad goals executed poorly, but I get it. And the more I played it, the more I realized, oh, Jeff was 100% correct. This game is indifferent to my presence. It just wants me to press the X button for it so it can play itself. And I just really it Candyland's a good analogy. I mean, I think we've come up with a bunch of analogies. None of them were comparing fun games.
Yeah.
Or analogizing fun games. This is maybe this is the worst game I've personally ever played, and Final Fantasy 13 was the worst game I had played before this. This now takes the cake. I finished Final Fantasy 13. I did not enjoy hammering on the X button and having the game play itself. I wish this game played itself more. I wish there was less of it. And ultimately, there's no story or there's no kernel of joy to be found here that I found. Like, there is a story, but it's not compelling, right? It's not a good enough reason.
That's not what I'm going to say. I would actually say, like I said, I completed 2 characters. The thing that I thought was kind of surprising about this game, some of these stories are super short. Some of these stories are about 20 to 25 hours long. So like I said, Judy is the little girl, the 10-year-old girl who's a witch in training. Her story takes anywhere between 4 to 6 hours to complete. The basic grasp there is that she's there to teach you how to use the magic system. So her whole campaign is about you figuring out how to use tablets, how to junction them onto a character, and then just kind of going through this very truncated story. Fun fact about Kurt, so Akitoshi Kawazu was one of the producers behind The Bouncer, and he decided to reuse Kurt's story, or the story of the Bouncer for Kurt. So if you want to play The Bouncer but fantasy version, you should check out Kurt, but actually don't.
Of course I do. Who wouldn't?
The weird thing is that the only character who gives you the full story is Ruby. She's one of the most selected and recommended characters for every guide I checked that said, hey, play this character if you want the best story.
I played the one with the best story?
The problem is I have to read this note on the guide that I read for Ruby. Ruby is an interesting character because by playing Ruby's quest, you will go through all 7 wonders. This is not something that you will be doing with all of the other characters. Ruby is one of the easier quests, but unfortunately, there are ways in which you can make the game unbeatable. To avoid this, please read through the rest of my guide.
That is literally the guide of Final Fantasy IX.
So apparently that is a recurring warning, is that you can level up your characters incorrectly. You can pick up characters that are inefficient in your party, which discourages better characters from joining. And as a result, you can enter these fail states, but it could take you anywhere between 3 to 5 hours to realize that you've entered a fail state, or just going to be perpetually subjecting yourself to death spirals, which is a very bad thing. I know that Braden can back me up here. The one thing that you can say about the cruelty about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons is that when you fuck up, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons kills you very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, you can just pick your shit up and try again.
If we played Pool of Radiance, knowing when you fuck up is as easy as going into an encounter and getting blown up by a fireball. In this game, it's the fireballs that don't blow up.
But more importantly,
thousands tiny magic missiles.
Watching Gino play this, I don't mean to put you on blast, Gino, but
that's fine.
It took you hours to finally realize that, oh shit, I actually need to use these tablets to learn magic. And by the time you did, you were at such a disadvantage with your magical characters that certain bosses and enemies that were susceptible to magical abilities, you had to wail on them for 15 to 10 minutes. And you can enter that as a result with any playthrough. If you don't, because there are certain
the game
characters.
Doesn't explain this shit.
There are certain characters who are going to go to the ice and the water dungeon, and if you don't have at least one character with a level 3 fire spell, you're just dead. You're going to die. You're going to fucking die. And if you don't have the ability to deal with tsunamis or bodies of water in the dungeon, you're just going to get stuck. So the part of this that is a bit bonkers wild to me, and this kind of just goes back to I don't know if this is a video game. So you spent a lot of time talking about the board game, but there's an overworld in this game. And there's a way for you to kind of explore cities and towns and inns. And they're the most cookie-cutter cities. They kind of reminded me of the cookie-cutter cities in Sid Meier's Pirates in a lot of ways, where everything here in this town is a vessel for you to interact with a mechanic. But sometimes you'll talk to a character and they won't respond to you because you failed the skill check in the background when talking to them. And just navigating from one town to the next, I was thinking, okay, well, I bumped up against this wall for this quest. Why don't I just go back to a previous environment and grind? You can do that, but you can't really do that. And so when I had a character that was basically like in a fail state, I felt really demoralized. I really did. I really felt like it's like, why am I continuing to use this second character of mine? I know that it sucks. The game just keeps grinding it into my eye, and it's just telling me, hey, you know what would really make this easy is if you had some wood magic right about now, but you don't. Ha ha ha, that's fucking fucked.
Yes, you're going to backtrack to the start of this dungeon, go to another dungeon, learn wood magic by defeating some sort of side quest that maybe you didn't cash in before, and then you will come back to this dungeon.
Oh my god, the side quests. So that's the one commonality that all of the playthroughs have, is that the side quests are relatively the same. They just are, depending on which location you're in, you'll get them. But, oh my god, the side quests were sometimes super quick, which is always good, but sometimes the side quests were just as involved as the main story quest lines, like picking up stuff, and finding them, and then like delivering them, and it's like, oh, nope, there's a fifth part here, a fifth person you're going to have to interact with, and you're going to need a locksmith. Well, shit, you're going to have to go back to the previous dungeon to level up your locksmith ability. Like, yeah, these side quests were like the delta in terms of how involved they were. Bananas. And that's like the first 2 levels of the game sometimes.
Yeah, so, Jeff, should we rank this thing? I don't know. Do we have any other things to say about this tragedy?
This game made me feel nothing. This game is an absence of feeling.
Yeah, it's like in that scene in Haunting of Hill House where the psychic lady touches the corpse and then becomes nihilistic because she felt nothing, and an overwhelming sense of the void filled her life.
This game is the energy vampire and What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
It sucks my life powers. Yes, this game sucks my life power. Just a few quick notes is I have a hard time calling Kawazu a bad game designer.
Yeah.
I have a hard time calling him like a net negative because he has made good games. Like, even if you're not
Which ones?
Crystal Chronicles. Crystal Chronicles. He was the producer of Crystal Chronicles. He was the go-to producer when Matsuno bounced out of Final Fantasy XII. Say what you will about
on The Last Remnant in some capacity.
Like, I like Final Fantasy II more than everyone here. Like, that game has problems, but
and he was
I don't
the
think
battle
the problems
designer of the first Final Fantasy system.
Yeah, like, I don't think the problems in Final Fantasy II are necessarily the Kawazu-isms of it. It's the 1988-isms of it, basically.
Shit, I'll defend Legend of Mana. Legend of Mana.
I would go out on a limb and say, for many of those games, the part where you play it is the worst part.
Not necessarily for, like, Legend of Mana or Racing Lagoon.
I'm not sure. 2, the worst part is when you play it.
I mean...
12, the worst part is when you play it.
I don't think he put together, like... Again, 2, we're talking about the combat system, and I don't think the combat is necessarily... The problem of 2 is monster closets. And if that's a Kawazu bit, then that's kind of crummy. But I don't think that game's total wash. As far as the 12 combat system... I think you put a lot of that on Matsuno, frankly. Like, I don't know. Like, he signed off on it after you left, so I guess shame on him. And again, these aren't write-off bad games, but this is kind of a write-off bad game.
Oh, yes. And this is the most uncut. I guess he had editors before.
Yeah.
And this is the most experimental of his games.
Like, as researched, this was him literally cashing in all the political clout he had in a very, very damaged goods Square period in, like, literally, like, 01, 02, and was just like, fuck it, I'm making exactly what I want, stop me. And they couldn't. He was just like,
You can't stop me.
Like, the thing is, this moved units. Like, this was the second best-selling game after 10-2. The year it came
sold
out,
over 500,000
in
copies.
Japan.
Yeah, in Japan. But even for like an obscure kind of weird bespoke JRPG, it sold like over 100,000 units in North America, and there was always a perception that the SaGa games could not sell in the United States.
Question: how much did including a Final Fantasy X-2 clip or demo move units here? Because I remember when I was a child, I bought Brave Fencer Musashi because that game had a Final Fantasy VIII demo on it.
I all but guarantee it moved units in America and Europe.
I would assume that this game moved some units. Look, I bought Crackdown because of the Halo 3 multiplayer beta.
Yeah, this was a little... I mean, when did we get a PS2? The first game I got with a PS2 was Grand Theft Auto 3 as like a 13-year-old, so hi, Mom and Dad. But I didn't really get into RPGs until like 2003. So all of this is totally lost on me when it was contemporary. But, you know, this was the period where, again, like people bought Zone of Enders to play MGS2. They bought, you know, oh God, what did the 12 demo come in? Did I invent a 12 demo? I mean, this had the 10-2 clip. You know, like this was a period where this was a common, we're not sure about this product, but we're going to lard it in with this other thing, and then you suckers will buy it. So, yeah, it moves stuff on the back of that. I want to address a couple things that came up in the Discord. Our patron Zeto asked, why do people bother to try to put board games into video games when Samurai Warriors 2 already did it perfectly? I think that is a very funny thing to say. Maybe I should play Samurai Warriors 2. If you replace that with Itagaki Street, you're probably onto something.
Itagaki Street is also a hateful random game.
No, it's not. It's fun and full of strategy.
I didn't say Dokapon, okay? That's a piece of shit.
Mario Party is a good franchise.
Jatsu asked if this was someone's first SaGa game, would you blame them for avoiding any other SaGa games? That's the thing, like, kinda, because this is very beyond the pale, and I think they'd be doing themselves a slight disservice because the prior entries in this, particularly Romancing Sagas 2 and 3, are apparently, like, good, like, fun.
Well, the funny backstory is that after Unlimited Saga was poorly received, like, apparently Akitoshi Kawazu was like thinking to himself, like, well, what do I do next? My little experiment, my passion project was not well received. And he's like, why don't I remake Romancing Saga 2? And then that's apparently how the PS2 remaster for Romancing Saga 2 was made, is that he just decided, it's like, well, I think I can still take some of my ideas, but why don't I go back to one of the older games and try and remake it? And then, yeah. Apparently, he really wanted to make a version of that game for phones.
Huh. Sure. Yeah.
Reki asked if there are any SaGa-adjacent games like Alliance Alive or The Legend of Legacy that are on the pipe for us. We have the remake of SaGa 2, the Game Boy game that was remade for the Nintendo DS in Japan, on our to-do list.
And I've put down the Gauntlet. I think you two are babies. I'm going to play the Game Boy version of that game. I'm going to play Final Fantasy Legend 2.
Okay,
yeah,
Grandpa.
I mean, the thing is, he asked us to play the DS version. It's not like I'm a baby thing.
Someone should play the original version. God damn it.
I'll make sure your dentures are nice and clean and your horse and buggy are ready to go so you can go get a Werther's original.
Hey.
Werther's sugar-free, god
Werther's
damn it.
Good. SaGa 2, got some real particular copy protection on it turns out. Yeah, so here we are. It's time. We're going to take the list out, everyone. We're doing it. We're going to put her up on the pillory. Let's revisit this little list here. So, bottom 3. We're not going to read this whole thing off anymore. I'm just going to give you the top and the bottom. So,
just read the bottom. That's all we need.
We're going to highlight. We want a taste of the goods here. In fact, we'll start there. So, top 3. Third place, you got Xenosaga Episode 1, Dervils Are Mocked. Number 2, Suikoden, Genso Suikoden. Number 1, the best RPG ever made, ever. Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. You heard it here first. Chrono Trigger sucks ass. Anyway, the bottom 3.
I hope someone gets angry and actually writes someone in the YouTube comments being like, I can't believe you guys hate Chrono.
Fallout New Vegas, more like Fallout New Vegas sucks. Anyway, number 22, Draken.
Damn.
Number 23, Secret of the Stars. That is Tecmo Secret of the Stars, if you're being nasty. And at the bottom of our list, number 24, Aiden Chronicles the First Mage.
Wait, is this also our 25th game?
Yeah, we made it to 25. What do you think of that?
That's
Yeah.
wow.
So, in that spirit, you start in the middle of the list, right? So, fellas,
No.
Hybrid Heaven or Unlimited SaGa, who you got? I'm personally...
It's never not funny when you bring up, is this game better than Hybrid Heaven?
Fine. Jeff, I'm looking you directly in the eyes. I want you to be aware of this. Hybrid Heaven is a better game than Unlimited
Bet your
SaGa.
sweet ass it is. Practically speaking, to save us a lot of time, I think this is a contest for the very bottom of this list, and I'm going to stake my claim right now. Aiden Chronicles is actually worse than this game.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there.
Aiden Chronicles
is creatively So here's the thing: is like Aiden Chronicles is creatively bankrupt and also incredibly long. And
Aiden Chronicles is baffling, and it is a technical nightmare game, but it at least is a simulacra of a RPG that I can understand.
Yeah, I think we need to define our terms here. So, Aiden Chronicles, from when I listened to your show, it sounds like a game that aspired to be more than it could do on an N64. It was executed poorly. It aspired to be something more than it could achieve. This game, Unlimited SaGa, aspires to be like I believe that they 100% executed the design document on Unlimited SaGa. It's just that all of the goals were bad. They aspired to make a bad thing, and they nailed it because they had the power of Square Enix at one of the times when it had resources. The music is good. The sprite work is good. A bunch of the stuff in this game is competent because real professionals with technical capabilities worked on this game. But they were guided in an Ahabian sort of way towards ruin. And in my estimation, it is a greater sin to aspire to something terrible and execute it than to dream big and just not have the technical capability to execute. I would vote this the worst thing because even if I think this game hit all of its goals, and we all said it made us feel nothing. Or worse.
So my case to counter that is, again, I don't know if yes, it did make me feel things, and yes, they were in fact worse. But it for me, it's the shocking amount of nothing that happens in Aiden Chronicles, I guess, is what really makes it
Aiden
bad.
Chronicles is very slow.
As I think, Jeff, you've said when we've been ranking Final Fantasy games, especially when we were doing the movies, the worst thing you can do is be boring rather than so remarkably bad. And
both of these games are boring.
Yes.
Both of these games are boring.
I would argue that there is a maddening aspect to Unlimited SaGa that makes it not necessarily funny, but remarkable.
Yes.
Unlimited SaGa is a remarkable video game.
The only thing
I can honestly say that I will never play a game like Unlimited SaGa.
Yes.
I will never play a game that
remark.
plays like it. I will never play a game that works like it. I have played bad CRPG, consoleized CRPG games, handheld-ified CRPG games before, and I will continue to. Games like Aiden Chronicles will continue to exist. Fucking go into Steam on the front page and search CRPG. You're going to see more of that kind of bottom-of-the-barrel dog shit.
Black Geyser, Couriers of Darkness exists. If you want your direct-to-video, independent Baldur's Gate knockoff, but no other human being on this planet will ever make another game like Unlimited SaGa.
Yeah, because
someone does.
It has bad goals. The design is poor. They executed on it, but just because someone made a steering wheel out of ham doesn't mean that it's wow, that's remarkable. How good.
My ham steering wheel.
A steering wheel that rots because it's made of ham doesn't mean we need to give it credit because there's another steering wheel made of wood that breaks sometimes or is unremarkable and hurts my hands. This is a foul thing that was made. Look, I'm sure that there are no puzzles that work like the puzzle cube from Hellraiser, but that's not a knock in its favor.
I gather the four of us are split 2 and 2 at this point. So,
yes. I think... Okay, I'll put it this way. I think I still think Secret of the Stars is the worst game we've played. However, I think I was also like, I think Aiden Chronicles would be tolerable if you played that game at double speed. There is no world in which this game is tolerable.
No, because the things they are asking you to do and the story it's telling are just so poor. Like all
the Aiden Chronicles story is not good either.
I bet.
Slow, pedantic, like as Jeff put it, how to be a man.
Yes.
Verbatim.
I'm sure it's reprehensible too. The act of playing this game is miserable. And they're like Braden said, if you made it faster, that wouldn't help. You need to just throw a lot of this design in the trash to make it a game that I would want to play.
Okay, so here's what I propose.
So Jeff, have you been moved, or is it?
I want to get the coin out.
Are we gonna flip a coin for this?
This game is the Lament configuration, is what I'm saying.
Pain and pleasure beyond mortal imagining.
I say it's either above or below Aiden, based on this coin toss.
Jeff, do you remember how this game hurt you?
I do.
You were playing it for charity, for the kids, and you were like, fuck them kids. This game is so unremarkable and terrible. You gave it up. We made it a donation incentive because of how much it hurt you. You can hurt it back.
It's worth seeing.
Is it worth seeing in the same way Antichrist is worth seeing, Jeff?
That's the kind of prick I am, not really.
You can flip the coin, Jeffrey. You can, but no. You also have your hand on the trigger, and you could just pull it. You can be Two-Face. You can flip the coin. You can also be the Joker and just pull the fucking trigger. Just do it.
Man.
Be legend.
I'm with you, Jeff. I'm with you.
I feel backed into a corner.
I'm So here's it. You're gonna flip the coin, or let me just say my piece real quick.
Can't believe I'm the one who's trying to be won over here.
When I attempt to kind of explain, why do you spend hours of time talking about video games and trying to find the worst or the weirdest or the most unusual? I'm going to show them Unlimited SaGa. Full stop. I will show people Unlimited SaGa because they need to know these are the weird types of games. I want to just say this. I'm glad we played Unlimited SaGa. I'm happy we did this. I feel like these are games that we need to cover because nobody's talking about this game.
Yeah.
This is a game that we need to talk about.
A game being a cautionary tale is not.
I think if I'm going to show someone an example of the kinds of games we cover, I'm going to show them Draken.
Oh yeah, because that game's fun. Jeff, you can flip your coin. You've had all of the arguments. You can make. Yeah. You can decide coin or not.
Yeah, okay, it's a bummer because the only reason I feel bad about Aiden Chronicles being the bottom of this list is I guarantee that the circumstances of that game's birth were a real pain in the ass versus the vanity project, in effect, that Unlimited SaGa kind of is, right? However, god damn, Aiden Chronicles is so dull. It's so dull. It's unbelievably dull. It's slow. It's needlessly long entrance that takes 15 minutes and does nothing, and it looks like garbage, and it runs like shit, and the fighting is miserable. Every part of it is terrible.
You run up against a rat where you're face to face, and then you go into the battle screen and you're 8 fathoms apart.
Combat is just hours of you just getting up to people. It's so bad. But that game was probably also made by a dozen people under duress to go out and die on the N64 in 2001. Every part of it is doomed from the start. So I feel bad being mean to the people involved in some sense.
All right, I'll help you out, Jeff. I will hear the floor and I will flip to make this a little bit easier.
Wait,
Unlimited SaGa is the worst game you've played.
I was surprised. I didn't realize going in. I'm like, oh no, this is not the worst game we've played. But then after talking about it, I'm like, wait, no, this game is a void. It is the everything bagel.
Yeah,
It is the yawning chasm.
I like everything bagels.
No, it's everything everywhere all at once.
Oh, okay.
The everything bagel with literally everything in a bagel.
Okay.
High quality film.
Well, then
watch
that's
it.
the tie has been broken. Democracy reigns.
And Jeff is the only one defending Unlimited Saga.
To be
No one
clear,
saw it coming.
Don't necessarily want to be defending it. I just want to say Aiden Chronicles, I feel like giving
Also
it a
sucks.
pip kind of makes it seem like Aiden Chronicles might be okay, and let me assure you it's not. But
It's the second worst game we've
Yeah.
ever played.
okay, that's what it's going to do then. The new floor, the new bottom 3 of this list goes all bad, all losers here. Tecmo Secret of the Stars, number 23, number 24 Aiden Chronicles the First Mage, and then number 25, glue it in there because he's probably not moving, Unlimited Saga.
Braden, is Unlimited Saga worse than, because you said Secret of the Stars is your worst game, is it worse than Secret of the Stars?
I mean, I played Secret of the Stars on an emulator and just turned on turbo mode. But I think there is something about Secret of the Stars' rank incompetence that jostles me more than like Unlimited Saga being a game that exists entirely for sickos who like FAQs.
I guess this is what we're really learning about me is like I would rather be very confused and very mad than very bored. Because Tecmo Secret of the Stars
agree.
was like frustrating and confusing, but not nearly as dull in some sense as Aiden Chronicles.
ZP has played better RPG Maker games made in Eastern Europe, in Central Asia than Tecmo Secret of the Stars.
Well, they got to, build. They stood atop the shoulders of giants like Tecmo Secret of the Stars.
Yeah,
Yes.
from the fabled RPG studio of Tecmo Sports. Hey, congratulations, Kawazu. Congratulations, Square. Just knocking it out on this list. You're number 13 there with Bottom Lagoon, and then the bottom.
And Xenosaga, right? That's Square too.
No.
No, Xenosaga
Namco.
Namco.
Yep.
Ah, damn it.
You fool! Okay, so 2 points of order here, and we're going to get off this call. The Patreon goal is dead. Long live the Patreon goal. Keep sending those letters and postcards and get your friends to sign up because we've got a next one set up. 30 subs.
Yeah.
The 30 sub
We have
goal.
a couple next
We've
one.
actually got them blocked out all the way to 50. Spoilers, but we're not going to give the whole hand. We're just going to show you the next card.
Okay.
What's the next card? For those of you who don't know how stinky this is, let us assure you, this is a doozy here. The 30 sub goal is going to be Ultima 9, the final Ultima game. Just ignore every attempt
'Cause it's
to
the best
spin off Ultima
Yeah.
games since then. Ultima 9, it's got a lot in common with Aiden Chronicles. It's just a little taste.
Ultima 9 is one of the funniest video games I have streamed.
It's also just a really sad story.
Oh, but yes, also Ultima 9 as like a video game is, and Ultima 9 not only killed Ultima, the franchise, it killed Origin Systems, it killed Richard Garriott giving a shit about video games, and it was, I believe, the first of many studios that EA murdered.
It also set back the CRPG genre by a lot for a very long time.
So
It definitely
look forward to that.
But only if you help us get there.
30
Viewers,
patrons.
The hundreds of you listening on the RSS feed. Hey, all our fans from South
Tell your friends.
Africa, we want you to just kick up $1. Yeah, we looked at the numbers, didn't we, Gino?
We did.
We know you're out there.
Yeah. We know you're out
All
there.
of our
We know you're
friends
listening.
across the globe, our fans.
We love
of
you.
Deep
All of our
Listen.
friends in the Transvaal. All of our friends in Cape Town. In Joburg. What's up? Hi.
Friends tell friends about Deep Listen.
Patreon.com/deeplistens. Patreon.com/deeplistens. And as mentioned,
Patreon.com/deeplisten.
everyone who kicks in that dollar gets in this Discord, gets to add to the list of RPGs, which we're going to draw from right now. That's right. We've got 13 on here.
Do that random number.
The random number that I'm pulling from random.org between 1 and 13 is 3. That is what has come up. Which means...
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I mean, none of these I'm particularly excited about, to be perfectly honest, with one exception. However, gentlemen, are you familiar with The Legend of Dragoon?
Hell yeah!
Oh, fuck.
The most stock RPG ever made.
A 4-disc fucking PS1
The Legend
game.
of Dragoon crawled so Blue Dragon could crawl slightly faster.
Great, it's time to play the super motion.
God.
I can install Legend of Dragoon on a Vita. Maybe I can join you for Legend of Dragoon.
If you would
That
like
game's
to
like
join us, you are
50
free,
hours
Gino.
long, and it's the most bare, boring ass.
Character's name is Lavitz Slambert.
Oh, fuck.
I'm going to float this right now. We don't have to resolve this, but given the length and the, style mode of this game, I'm open to the idea of finishing this one. Not saying we need to.
Did you say 50
Not
hours?
saying we need to.
Oh,
I'm not saying we have to, but I'm saying...
Decide that off air. Decide that off air.
I think we're
Why
going to
is-
decide it live in the first recording
those
of it,
choices.
which will be in a couple weeks.
That's-
Again, not saying
that's
we
fair.
have to.
Okay, yeah, you know what? We're going to do our original voting rules.
I say,
In order to continue a video game, it needs two-thirds
we gotta-
vote.
We got to turn the keys. This is why we need odd numbers. This is why, Gino, you're out. Go away. Hey, thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this installment of Off the Deep End. Please, as mentioned, any and all questions to inquiries@deep.lol or just shoot us up on the Discord. Just say hi, wave.
Tell us we're wrong about Chrono Trigger.
I like Chrono Trigger. Please don't kill me.
I think Chrono Trigger is the archetypical SNES era JRPG.
Chrono Trigger is pretty good.
It is the platinum standard for a reason.
If you would like to help this show, Deep Listen's Mothership, the entire thing, the operation, the outfit, the crew, if you'd like to help us keep doing this thing, patreon.com/beachlisten, blah, 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 blah. Patreon.com/deeplistens. That beer is starting to kick in. Any dollar amount, greatly appreciated, gets you access to this Discord where you can send us complaints and prayer concerns in real time. Shoutouts to SuperSex420 for the podcast theme music song Halfway. His stuff's on Bandcamp. Search for SuperSex420. See you next time, and remember, there's no such thing as cheating in a single-player game, particularly Unlimited SaGa, which you shouldn't be playing. Bye-bye. This episode of Off the Deep End was recorded and edited on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Nisqually or Nisqually people, who have lived on and stewarded these lands and waters since times immemorial.